Hello there. Are you all tucked in and cozy? Good. Let's begin a very special story together.
Well, tonight, you're gonna meet one. And this isn't just any cat. Oh no. He's one of the smartest, most amazing cats you could ever imagine.
You see, once upon a time, in a little cottage near a mill, there lived a miller with his 3 sons. Now, when the miller passed away, he left the mill to his oldest son and his donkey to the second son. But for the youngest son, well, all he got was the cat.
The poor young man was just so sad. He sighed and thought to himself, my brothers can work and live well, but me? What in the world can I do with just a cat? He felt like he had nothing at all.
But just then, something truly amazing happened. The cat, who had been listening this whole time, sat right up and he spoke. Can you believe it? He said, "Don't you worry about a thing, master. Just get me a bag and a pair of boots. You'll see, your luck is about to change."
Well, the miller's son was so stunned to hear his cat talk that he did just what the cat asked. And the cat, he proudly pulled on his brand new boots, threw the bag right over his shoulder, and marched out that door with a twinkle in his eye. He had a plan. And boy, was it a clever plan. First, the cat went to a field and put some yummy greens in his bag. Then, he laid down and pretended to be fast asleep. It wasn't long before a silly little rabbit hopped right inside for a snack. Snap! The cat had him. Then, he marched all the way to the king's palace and said he had a gift from someone very grand called the Marquis de Carabas.
The king was so pleased. He'd never heard of this Marquis de Carabas before, but my, what a wonderful gift. The very first part of the cat's clever little plan. It had worked perfectly. And he kept doing it. For weeks and then for months, the clever cat kept bringing wonderful presents to the king. And every single time, he'd bow and say, "From my master, the Marquis de Carabas."
Then, one lovely sunny day, the cat heard some exciting news. The king and his daughter, the most beautiful princess in the whole wide world, were going for a ride right by the river. The cat's whiskers started twitching. He had an idea. He raced home and said, "Master, quick, go down to the river for a swim and just leave everything else to me." So, while the miller's son was splashing around in the water, the cat sneakily hid his master's old, torn clothes under a big rock. And just as the king's royal carriage came into view, the cat started shouting at the top of his little lungs. Of course, the king recognized the cat who brought him all those gifts. He sent his guards to help right away. And once the miller's son was all dried off and dressed in a magnificent suit from the king himself, well, he looked like a real prince. The princess took one look at him and her heart went pitter-patter.
The cat was so happy he could have jumped for joy. He started running way ahead of the king's carriage. He saw some workers in a field and told them, "Listen, if the king asks who owns this beautiful meadow, you must tell him it belongs to the Marquis de Carabas." And they did just what he said.
He did the very same thing with the people in the cornfields, and with every field they passed, the king grew more and more impressed. But the cat, he was running towards something enormous, a great big castle, and inside lived someone, not very nice at all. It was the home of an ogre. An ogre, is a huge, grumpy giant, and this ogre was the richest of all. But he also had a special magic. He could turn himself into any animal he wanted.
Now, our little cat was very, very brave. He walked right up to the castle door and knocked. When the big ogre answered, the cat bowed very low and said, "Oh, great ogre, I have heard you are so powerful. I've heard you can even turn yourself into a giant lion."
Well, the ogre loved to show off. With a great big roar, he turned into a giant, ferocious lion. Puss was so scared he scrambled all the way to the top of the curtains. When the ogre changed back, the cat carefully climbed down and said, "Wow, that was incredible. But I bet you can't change into something teeny tiny, like a little mouse."
The ogre did not like that one bit. He puffed out his chest. "Impossible?" he thundered. "Nothing is impossible for me. You just watch."
And just like that, poof, the huge, grumpy ogre was gone. And scurrying across the floor was a tiny little mouse.
And our clever cat Well, he didn't even think about it. He pounced on that little mouse, and in one gulp, it was gone. And that was the end of the boastful ogre.
And wouldn't you know it, at that very moment, the king's carriage rolled up to the castle. Puss ran to the entrance, gave his deepest bow, and said in his proudest voice, "Your Majesty, welcome to the castle of my master, the Marquis de Carabas."
The king just couldn't believe his eyes. This marquis was so handsome, and his castle was the grandest he had ever seen. He turned to the miller's son and said, "My lord Marquis, nothing would make me happier than for you to marry my daughter."
And so, the miller's son, who was now a great lord, bowed and said, "Yes." And that very same day, he and the beautiful princess were married. They knew they would be happy for the rest of their lives.
And what about our brave, clever cat? Well, he became a great lord too. He lived in the castle, wearing the finest clothes and eating the best food. And he never had to chase another mouse for his dinner, unless, of course, it was just for a bit of fun.
And that's our story. It just goes to show, when you're clever and brave, and especially when you're a good friend, the most wonderful, magical things can happen. Now, it's time to sleep. Sweet dreams.